Have you ever stumbled upon something that felt so right that you don't know how you've made it this far in life without it? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you about the type of video game that scratches all the right places in my brain, and take you on the journey of how I found and fell in love with them. If you couldn't tell by the thumbnail, the games I'm talking about are the logistics/automation games. If you don't know about these games, keep watching, cause I may just introduce you to the most satisfying addiction that you've ever had. And if you do know about them, let's talk about the father of all games in this genre, Factorio. In Factorio, you play as a random spaceman that just recently crash-landed into a hostile, alien-infested planet. Your goal? To get the hell away from this planet before these unfriendly neighbors decide to remove you on their own terms. The issue is, building and launching a spaceship is not exactly a walk in the park for a random spaceman that has nothing to his name but a pistol and a few scraps that he could salvage from his spaceship's wreckage. You're going to need a lot of materials. We're talking about iron, copper, coal, oil, all these other lovely things that are involved in human space travel. Oh, and I said that you'd need a lot. I mean, a lot. We're talking about amounts that any player will quickly realize are impossible to obtain alone. But worry not. This is where your engineer training arc begins. To succeed in Factorio, you must design, build, automate, and optimize a factory, so that you can research how to build the tools you need to not only escape, but to defend yourself for long enough to even reach that point. Thankfully, Factorio provides you with all of the necessary equipment to do just this. Miners to get ore, belts to move it, smelters to make it useful, and the final piece to this very oversimplified view of basic material processing, assembly machines to make it into useful parts. With these machines and a bunch of things called inserters that can take items in and out of buildings, you can design masterfully efficient and aesthetically pleasing production lines that can mass produce whatever you need. Masterfully efficient and beautiful, who am I kidding? Most of my factories end up looking like a Jackson Pollock painting after a few hours. Now you may be thinking, that's interesting, but it sounds a little tedious. Well, luckily, Factorio is very realistic, because just like the real world, the bots are coming for your job. Once you've successfully obtained a small army of bots, large construction projects go from tedious to very satisfying, as you can design your own blueprint or download one from the internet and then place it and sit back and watch as your minions do the work for you. Except there's no time for you to actually sit back and watch your minions work because all of your expansion has really pissed off the local environmentalists, and they've decided to weaponize. Oh, and also, your starting coal patch is running dangerously low, and that is conveniently powering your entire base. This is a problem indeed. This game never fails to make me prioritize tasks to ensure that my base keeps operating and progressing through the tech tree. It's this feeling of there's always 5 things that I could or maybe should be doing that makes Factorio so addicting. The game has been dubbed Cracktorio for a reason. I tend to binge games when I feel like playing them, and I can confidently say that no game has a stronger grip on my soul than this one. In Factorio, the stream of dopamine starts as soon as you automate your first production, and only grows as you continue to add more complex systems, working out supply bottlenecks along the way. Watching the belts in your new production line fill with beautiful source materials and then in mere seconds producing hundreds of items that would have taken you many minutes to craft by hand otherwise is truly one of the proudest feelings I've ever experienced in gaming. Just look at it, it's so amazing, feels so good. It can be hard sometimes to put emotions into words, but let me try to walk you through how this game keeps the players so captivated. If we start with the mindset that we need to automate some production part, we spend some time trying to figure out what source materials we're going to need to supply our new assemblers. Hopefully we already have whatever those source materials are being made elsewhere in our factory, but if not, that's our new task. It doesn't really matter what your task is though, because you hear and your new top priority is stopping the anti-industrialism attack group that has taken aim at your factory. After clearing out the threat and assessing the damages, you realize that researching military advancements may be the best course of action from here out. But one of the requirements for military science are grenades, which require a lot of coal. And if you remember from before, our starter coal patch is running dangerously low. Alright, an expedition to set up more coal production it is, and I better do it quickly because the biters are only getting stronger, and leaving my poorly defended base to set up a new coal source way over here Sounds like a recipe for disaster. Then I looked down at the time and realized that 3 hours have passed and I've forgotten to eat anything for dinner. Are you starting to see? Factorio is incredible. Now, I could go on and on about how much I love Factorio, but let's transition into how I discovered that this style of game was for me. Almost a decade ago, I was starting to fall in love with a small game that most of you probably haven't heard of called Minecraft. Now, Minecraft alone doesn't exactly have much in the way of automation, but using hoppers and redstone was just enough to make me really fall in love with the technical aspects of the game. A few years later, I dipped my toe into the world of modded Minecraft, where I discovered SkyFactory. Now, SkyFactory is a mod pack that reinvents the standard Minecraft challenge of Skyblock, where the player starts way up in the sky with very little space or resources to work with. Well, once you make it out of the early game of SkyFactory, you're going to have lots of fancy modded machinery that is necessary for many of the current and future crafting recipes that you have. The more you progress, the more different machines you need, and it quickly becomes apparent that any amount of automation would save you so much headache in this mod pack. Luckily, modded Minecraft has many different ways to move items, fluids, all this stuff around to help automate these things. My personal favorite of these pipes to move things around in modded Minecraft are the Ender IO conduits. They're very nice and you can place different types of conduits on the same tile. It just saves so much space. Here I have automated a mob farm where I very messily piped all the loot into some storage drawers. I've filtered out the ender pearls so that I can use them in this ender generator to automatically produce power. I won't go into too much detail on what's going on with all of these different machines, but you can see how this has a similar feel to the logistics-based gameplay of something like Factorio. Some of the major differences between Factorio and SkyFactory are the first-person perspective and the entire third dimension that you can use to build your factory in any direction that you'd like. And this is what brings us to the next game in this genre, Satisfactory. Now, when I talk about Satisfactory, it's hard not to compare it to Factorio due to its similar gameplay loop. The best way I can put it is, Satisfactory is like Mac OS. Everything is graphically beautiful and smooth and, well, satisfying. But if you're into technical things like programming, then you will know that macOS can be a bit more limiting when it comes to its capabilities. And honestly, just a bit more of a headache to work with in general. I think Satisfactory can be looked at in much the same way. Factorio, on the other hand, is like Linux. It's dirtier overall in its look and feel, but there's almost no limit to what you can make it do. I'm quite proud of this comparison because I think that it really hits the nail on the head for how these games differ. In Satisfactory, you are an employee or a pioneer of a company called Fixit. Haha, get it? Much like Factorio, your goal is to harvest and process the planet's resources into useful parts in order to progress and unlock new technologies. Unlike Factorio, the map in this game is not randomly generated. It has been handcrafted by the devs to offer a more curated exploration experience. While the map is stunning visually and respectably large, the fact that it is the same on every playthrough does hinder this game's replayability for me. I love Satisfactory's animations and the massive scale that the first-person perspective really drives home. The third dimension offers so much more creativity when it comes to designing your factory. There's also much more customization available to you, so you can create some really cool looking creations. Satisfactory also lacks the ever-present threat of the biters in Factorio. There are hostile enemies in it, but they will only ever attack the player and only if the player gets too close to them. This alone makes Satisfactory have much more of a sandboxy feel than Factorio, and it's one of my biggest gripes with the game. Don't get me wrong, I love Satisfactory, but the lack of that constant threat of biter evolution and attacks leads me to lose purpose much more easily. I frequently find myself just slowly strolling through my massive factory and admiring the production and efficiency of it all. It's honestly a really peaceful feeling, but without that external motivation to progress, it's all too easy to do, well, nothing productive at all. This game 100% scratches that itch that I mentioned in the title of this video. It is an incredibly good feeling to look at your creations and be able to understand what every little piece does because you put it there yourself. I think it's something that you really need to experience yourself to fully understand. I can't speak highly enough of the games that I mentioned in this video. If you haven't tried them out, you should. No, you must give them a shot. Just like you must click like and subscribe on this video. Sorry, I don't make the rules. These games offer experiences that you can't find anywhere else in gaming, and that's what makes them so incredible. Let me know which of these games is your favorite, and of course, thank you for watching.